I'm going to start by conducting a scientific experiment that involves everyone. So follow instructions carefully. I'm going to ask you a question, and you're going to answer by holding up two hands when I say go. And the answer is going to be numbered between 0 to 10. Okay? And the question is, when you were in kindergarten, how good were you at painting or some other creative art? 0 is nothing. Hey, when I say go. 0 is nothing, and 10 is I was Picasso. Ready? Everybody go. All right, so we had a lot of kindergarten Picassos, I guess average about 8, okay? Now, second question. Today, if you were to judge yourself as a painter, 0 to 10, what would you be? Go. All right, now we're down to about average about 3. Okay, so the experiment, obviously, everybody knows, we're talking about innovation, that creativity is important for innovation. So what happened between kindergarten and today that made you 5 points worse at painting or other creative arts? Obviously, you're getting older, but a lot of things happened. I think today's society, today's education, and all this conference we've been talking to those, what I call positive deviants, the people in society who have figured out a way not to get programmed into being uncreative. But even you, the audience here today, who are probably most creative people, still find themselves somehow self-limited by society, by education. So somehow we have to fix this, because we know that in the old days, maybe the point was to get to factory on time and do as you were told and get the widgets out. But today we realize that we need innovation, and for innovation we need creativity. And so I want to talk a little bit about how I thought about it. Very, very different approach. But I want to talk a little bit about my background. So I'm an internet guy. And I changed when the internet happened to me. So I think about the internet as a fundamental component of the evolution of man. We are in the age of the internet. So in the old days, BI stands for before internet, life was simple. Okay? And so, it was like Newtonian. You could predict what was going to happen. Life didn't change. When you became an adult, you would just repeat the same thing over and over again, and you would produce. And as a child, you would learn. After internet, the world became complex and unpredictable. You found out that Newton's laws were local ordinances that didn't apply anymore. Suddenly, the world became unpredictable, complex, and scary, actually. I've come up with 9 principles. I'm actually writing a book with my friend Jeff Howe on this, about the principles of AI. What happens after internet? How do you have to think about it? So let me give you a few examples. So this is my bathroom in Japan, circa 1990-something. This is the first commercial internet service provider in Japan. And the internet, when it was created, was competing against a lot of different standards by telephone companies and governments. But the reason that the internet won was because it was a triumph of distributed innovation over centralized innovation. It was a triumph over this kind of scattered, small pieces loosely joined, seat of the pants innovation over heavily funded, heavily controlled innovation. Internet is not a technology, it's a philosophy. It's a philosophy of innovating without asking permission, just like you should paint without having to ask yourself for permission. What the internet did was it lowered the cost of collaboration and created a network that connected everyone together. And when you add that to Moore's law, which everyone I think knows, which is that computers have been accelerating geometrically in the speed and lowering the prices, and when you put those two together, you have low net cost of the network, so cheap distribution, cheap collaboration, and cheap cost of computing, you get low cost of innovation. So what does that mean? So in the old days, I still remember before internet, BI, when you wanted to write a piece of software, you want to do a project, well, you'd have to get this MBA guy to write a business plan so that you could raise the money, and then you would hire the engineers and they would make all this stuff, and then you'd create the project, and it would cost millions of dollars, but it started out with a business person and ended up with the engineers, right? This is the old days. Today, what happens? So you get Google, Facebook, Yahoo, a bunch of students, engineers, build the thing without any permission. They connect it to the internet at no cost, and the thing starts to go. And then they get the money, and then after they get the money, they figure out, how do we make money? What's the business plan? So it's the opposite. The old days, it was think of the idea, write the business plan, get the money, build the thing. It's build the thing, get the money, then think about what to do about it. None of these companies, I'm an investor in Twitter, if you look at Google, none of these guys had a business plan or a business model before they got the money, right? It's a fundamentally different world where you actually don't have the MBA first, you have the engineer first. So in these principles, it's systems over objects, first of all, because it's about how does what you do fit into the entire system. It's disobedience over compliance. No one starts a new business by being told what to do. They come up with their own ideas. It's emergence over authority. It's not who's important, who's authoritative. These guys are the guys on the edges. These people are the people who are disobeying and coming up with their own idea. And practice over theory. It's not about coming up with some grand theory of the world or some economic theory and then figuring out what to do. You just build it and then you figure out what it means. So practice over theory. The other thing that this fundamentally changes is the nature of risk. So in a big company's person's head, everybody's worried about the downside risk because there's so many ways to lose money. But in venture capital, my average investment is $100,000 per investment. So the most I will lose on every deal is $100,000 that I invest in you. But for any of these big companies I just talked about, if you had invested $100,000 in the first round, you would have become a billionaire or at least a 100 millionaire. So what you do is you try to bet on a bunch of great ideas. I never read business plans. I look at the people, and the good ones you help, and the bad ones you let them go. It's a completely different way of thinking about taking risk. And so this is really about taking risk and understanding risk over safety. And resilience over strength basically means the power to bounce back rather than the power to resist failure, which ties to this idea of agility. Agility is the ability to move quickly. YouTube, 2005. I am male, seeking everyone between 18 and 45, upload video. It was a video dating site. It was a bad idea. If this had taken years to make, they would have kept trying this for a long time. But because they didn't spend so much time making it, they quickly pivoted to Flickr with video, and then MySpace video, and then they were very successful. But this agility comes from the lack of assets. Every line of code, every piece of hardware, every intellectual property piece lowers your agility. All those assets that we thought were prized assets are actually liabilities when it comes to agility. So this is also compasses over maps. Don't try to plan everything. Have a strong compass. You have to have values, but figure it out as you go along. And that's agility. And pull over push. You also have to embrace serendipity. This is luck, but it's also the stuff that you see around you, the pattern recognition. So if you're hunting mushrooms, you can't focus and find the mushroom. You have to fade out the focus, and then the mushrooms pop out. When you focus, we all cherish focus, execution. But the minute you do that, if you plan everything, you can't be lucky, and you need a lot of luck. So the power of pull, this is John Seeley Brown. This is a great idea, which is the idea of pulling the resources as you need them. And so the example I'll give is that when the earthquake happened, I was in Boston. I was worried about radiation for my family. So within weeks, I had every expert in the world on radiation monitoring and hardware just using the internet. So we started from not knowing anything to knowing so much that we created a nonprofit with volunteers, and we have 3.5 million points of data, more data than any government database publicly available. And all of the plans of the government failed, but this ad hoc group that we had by just pulling the resources that we need as we needed it succeeded. And this is really about the world of internet. It's not stocking lots of stuff. It's you can pull the stuff as you go along. So we invented a new Geiger counter, made it open source hardware. You can download and build it yourself. And so just like the cost of innovation in software went down, so all the energy went to the startups, now this is also happening in hardware. This is also going to happen in biotechnology, where the cost of innovation is going nearly to zero. So at the Media Lab, we are working very much on disobedience over compliance. You don't get a Nobel Prize by doing what you're told. We are learning over education. I don't like the word education. Education is what other people do to me. Learning is what you do to yourself, right? So we focus on that and practice over theory. And we have a degree called Media Arts and Science, which is arts and science, design and engineering. And this is our building. And we just did a faculty search, and we put as a requirement that the faculty had to be anti-disciplinary. I'm lucky that MIT let us do this. This means that if you can do what you want to do in any discipline, you don't belong at the Media Lab. You can only come to the Media Lab if we're the only place you can do what you want to do, whether you're a student or a faculty. And the way we measure our success is uniqueness, impact, and magic. And we have a very atelier model, which is we don't sit around and talk about things, we just build things. And so And I just joined about a year ago, and the big change that I'm trying to do is I'm trying to change the Media Lab from a container into a network. And today I'm going to announce that we are trying to work very closely with Lakshmi and the INK community to connect our networks together. And so, starting next year, we would like to have a Media Lab event inside of INK. We're going to try to tie up our fellows network. We're trying to do a lot of exchange. And we'll figure it out as we go along. Again, it'll be practice over theory. But Lakshmi and I have decided that we're going to connect strongly. So we hopefully will see a lot of us here, and we'll see a lot of you over in Cambridge. Thank you very much.